Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rabbi.
This week's parsha is Parshas Emor. The parsha starts off, Emor el HaKoyanim. Hashem speaks to Moshe, tells Emor el HaKoyanim, tell the Koyanim, Amarta aleim, and he should tell them. Tell them and tell them. So Rashi says, what is this twice? It says, speak to them and tell them. Emor ve'amarta lahazhir gdoilim alaktanim. This is that the older ones should warn and teach and educate the younger ones. That there is a special mitzvah, a special commandment, a special dedication that the Kohanim have, that they have to make sure they don't become impure. They're not allowed to put themselves in that position. Very, very few places are they allowed to do that. Most places they're not. And this continues even till today, even though we do not have the temple. For example, a Kohen does not go to the cemetery. You know, sometimes people need a minion in the cemetery. The Kohen says, sorry, I can't go. Why? Because he's not supposed to go. The only time he goes is if it's his close relatives. So there are certain limitations that the Kohen has till today, because they have to maintain a certain level of holiness of when it comes to Tuma and Tara, being holy or becoming impure. So this obligation, this commandment of Emor el HaKohanim, and the pasuk continues ve'amarta, and you should tell them, is teaching us the obligation that the Kohen has of chinuch, of education for the next generation. That they have to not just fulfill it themselves, they have an obligation to command the next generation to be careful. And this is actually mentioned, this obligation, in 3 places that the Torah says that there's an obligation to the older to teach the younger. One is when it comes to the prohibition of achilas shratzim, eating little bugs and little insects. The second one is Isra Achilas Dam, the prohibition of eating blood or drinking blood. We do not do that. That's why our chicken and meat is very salty, because there's a process of taking out the blood before we eat it. And the third one is in this week's Parsha, Isur Tumas Koyanim, the prohibition of becoming impure for a Kohen. So each one of them teaches us something. The first one is, you would think, that when it comes to educating, you have a certain limitation. This I can educate, this I cannot educate. What does that mean? For example, when a person eats little insects, so in a sense, that's not something that most people eat. Most of us are a lot of people even get grossed out when they see while they're still alive. Can you imagine when they're dead? So this is something you would think when a person is doing that, they're doing it bedafka. They're just to do it, just to get everybody else angry, to get somebody mad. In a sense, if a person has that attitude, that person I cannot educate already. He's already a lost cause. He's already a person that's on the far end. Torah says even such a person you can educate, you can care for, you can inspire them. That's number 1. Number 2, the prohibition of eating blood or drinking blood. So this is something that the Egyptians were a very big fan of. They used to drink blood. There was actually, I don't remember, there was somebody big in the world, in the health world, that he used to drink blood. He said you have to drink blood a cup a day. And I think he was 65 and he had a blood clot from all the blood he was drinking. So I got some ice like that. But anyway, so the Egyptians were very into blood. And the Jews in Egypt at that time were affected by that. They also, to a certain extent. No, that's a blood libel. That's fake. That's fake news. But there is this idea of in the times of Egypt that the Jews were similar to the non-Jews, to the Egyptians, that they drank blood. So you would think once somebody has a nature to do something and it's already in your blood, so to speak, it's already in your blood. So it's harder to get somebody to change, because already this is something I do. We grew up with it. Also, there's a commandment there that we can educate and encourage and change and upgrade. Then comes the third prohibition of the Tumas Koyanim, the purity of a Kohen. He has to be careful not to become impure. So you would say, this is already something that doesn't make sense. I mean, it's not something we can it's not tangible. Can you see somebody that's pure, someone that's not pure? Can you see the spiritual contamination? You don't see it. So maybe that's something I can't really educate somebody. You have to either have that feeling or not. So the Torah is telling you all these 3 levels you can educate. You can educate, the person can connect with it, they can come to appreciate it. And the walking away from education, the most important point is, I think, for ourselves and for everybody else, is that the best way to educate is with simcha, with joy. If you're excited about Yiddishkeit, you're excited about what you're doing, and you're giving off those positive vibes, and people around you, they will appreciate it, they will enjoy it, they will see the beauty of it, and they will continue. May we all be able to have that simcha, have that joy, have that positive effect on others, and be able to educate in a positive way. B'karav mamish. Amen. Amen.